A revolution is quietly sweeping through parts of the Middle East, a movement some are calling the Jesus Revolution. In an astonishing turn of events, an unprecedented number of Muslims, particularly in Iran, are leaving Islam and turning to Christ. Imagine a nation with centuries of deeply rooted Islamic traditions beginning to shift in ways no one could have anticipated. Picture this: churches overflowing with worshippers, while attendance in mosques steadily declines. It sounds almost impossible, doesn't it? But this is precisely what is happening in the Islamic Republic of Iran. A remarkable transformation is unfolding, leaving many asking the same question: what is going on? The answer is nothing short of astounding, and trust me, you'll want to hear the whole story. Over 1 million Muslims in Iran have made the unexpected and courageous decision to embrace Christianity. Could this surge in conversions signal the beginning of the end for radical Islam in one of its strongholds? Let's explore. When most people think of Iran, Christianity is likely not the first thing that comes to mind. Iran, after all, is the largest Shiite Muslim state in the world, deeply entrenched in Islamic traditions and globally recognized for its strict enforcement of religious law. But beneath the surface of this theocratic state, something profound and unexpected is occurring. A surge in conversions from Islam to Christianity is quietly yet powerfully reshaping the country's spiritual landscape. This movement is not just a religious shift, it's a challenge to the very foundations of Iran's theocratic regime. For decades, Iran's Islamic Republic has built its authority on the principles of Shiite Islam. The government exerts tight control over religious expression, often punishing dissenters with severe measures. The notorious morality police, tasked with upholding Islamic laws, have frequently come under international scrutiny for their harsh enforcement methods. One such incident sparked outrage worldwide when a woman was allegedly shot for violating mandatory hijab laws. These actions reveal the rigid, often oppressive strategies used to maintain conformity within the nation's Islamic framework. Despite these efforts to enforce religious adherence, cracks in the system are becoming increasingly visible. Discontent is growing, and the signs are undeniable. Reports indicate that an astonishing 50,000 of Iran's 75,000 mosques have closed due to declining attendance. A prominent Iranian cleric, Mohammad Abolghasem, acknowledged a significant drop in mosque patronage, signaling a broader crisis of faith among Iranians. This trend aligns with reports that around 1 million Muslims in Iran have chosen to follow Christ. This movement, often referred to as the Jesus Revolution, is gaining momentum and cannot be ignored. A study conducted by CBN and the international radio ministry, The Tide, found that approximately 1 million Iranian Muslims have embraced Christianity. This is not a mere statistical anomaly. It represents a profound cultural and spiritual shift within a society long defined by Islamic tradition. But why is this happening? What is driving this wave of conversions? The reasons for this shift are deeply connected to Iran's political, social, and economic struggles. For many Iranians, Christianity offers a stark and hopeful contrast to the authoritarian and punitive nature of the Islamic regime. Christianity's core messages of hope, love, forgiveness, and a personal relationship with God deeply resonate with those who feel disillusioned and oppressed after decades of hardship. These principles present a vision of life that stands in direct opposition to the authoritarian rule of the Islamic Republic. Todd Nettleton, of the Voice of the Martyrs, highlights the broader challenges facing Iran today. The country suffers from some of the highest rates of drug addiction in the world, widespread corruption, and a struggling population where over half live in poverty. These systemic issues have eroded faith in the promises of Islam as practiced under the current regime. For a growing number of Iranians, these failures have disillusioned them with the religion that has been so closely tied to their government. As economic struggles worsen, fueled by international sanctions, mismanagement, and widespread corruption, many Iranians have been forced to reevaluate their beliefs and seek answers elsewhere. A recent survey conducted by the Netherlands-based Gaman Institute revealed even more striking insights. An overwhelming 80% of Iranians expressed a desire for a democratic government, explicitly rejecting the Islamic Republic in its current form. This widespread dissatisfaction with political Islam has created fertile ground for spiritual exploration. In this context, Christianity is not just seen as another religion, it is viewed as a means of liberation, both spiritually and socially. Christianity's association with values like democracy, human rights, and personal freedom, as seen in many Christian-majority nations, appeals to Iranians who yearn for change. For them, the teachings of Christ offer more than just a spiritual awakening. They represent a radical departure from the oppression, inequality, and fear that have long defined their lives. This movement is not merely about converting to a new faith. It's about finding hope in the midst of despair, love in the face of oppression, and freedom where there was once control. The Jesus Revolution in Iran is more than a passing trend. It's a reflection of deep societal and spiritual transformation. As more Iranians turn to Christianity, they're not only seeking God, but also envisioning a new way of life, one filled with hope, compassion, and possibility. While the path ahead may be uncertain, one thing is clear. This quiet revolution is reshaping the soul of a nation. What could this mean for the future of Iran and the broader Islamic world? Only time will tell. But one thing is certain. The winds of change are blowing. Yearning for freedom and equality, the growing interest in Christianity in Iran reflects a broader cry for reform. It suggests that religion is becoming a focal point for resistance against a regime that many feel has failed them. Unsurprisingly, the Islamic leadership in Iran has responded harshly to this rise in Christianity. Conversion from Islam is strictly forbidden, and those who choose to leave their birth religion, labeled apostates, often face severe punishment. This includes imprisonment, public shaming, and in some cases, even execution. The government's crackdown on Christianity is part of a larger strategy aimed at maintaining control over the population. Yet, despite these harsh measures, underground churches and digital platforms have emerged as powerful hubs for Christian worship, fellowship, and education. These hidden spaces, whether physical or virtual, enable the Christian movement to grow, even in the face of tremendous risks. Todd Nettleton, an advocate for religious freedom, explains that this surge in conversions is not simply driven by dissatisfaction with Islam. It is also fueled by the unique appeal of Christianity. Many converts cite its teachings on compassion, grace, and forgiveness as pivotal factors in their decision to embrace this faith. For countless individuals, the idea of a personal relationship with God, a relationship centered on love rather than fear, offers a sense of hope and agency that was absent from their previous religious experience. In a world where many feel betrayed by political leaders and crushed under the weight of systemic injustice, the teachings of Jesus stand out as a transformative message of hope and liberation. The timeless words from Matthew 11:28-30 resonate deeply. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy, and my burden is light. These words are not merely a source of comfort. They are a bold promise, an assurance of peace and relief for people worn down by years of hardship. For many Iranians, these teachings are exactly what they have been yearning for, a sense of freedom and solace in a system that has long oppressed them. In a nation where daily life is marked by suppression, economic hardship, and systemic corruption, Christianity is becoming far more than a religion. It is a symbol of personal freedom, a light piercing through the darkness of political and spiritual oppression. In Iran, where the lines between religion and politics are tightly interwoven, turning to Jesus is an act that holds profound significance. For those trapped by the hollow promises of the Islamic theocracy, embracing Christianity feels like discovering a way to breathe freely again. This decision is not only about faith, it is a deeply personal act of rebellion. It is a statement, one that says, I reject the system that has failed me. The Iranian government has built its authority on strict interpretations of Islam, tying its political and spiritual legitimacy to these doctrines. For this reason, converting to Christianity represents a fundamental challenge to the regime's foundations. To choose Christianity in Iran is to openly defy the status quo. It sends a powerful message, a rejection of control, corruption, and the unfulfilled promises of justice and dignity. For decades, the Iranian people have suffered under the weight of widespread poverty, rampant government corruption, and one of the highest rates of drug addiction in the world. These grim realities have shattered the faith of many in a system that once claimed to bring about justice and prosperity through Islam. In stark contrast, Christianity offers something radically different. Its message of unconditional love, forgiveness, and eternal hope stands in sharp relief to the harshness of daily life in Iran. The idea of a relationship with God, built on compassion rather than control, has drawn thousands to explore a faith that feels more human and accessible. Of course, this growing movement has not gone unnoticed. The Iranian government views the rise of Christianity as a direct threat, not only to their religious authority, but also to their political dominance. In response, the regime has doubled down on its efforts to suppress this movement. Underground churches are raided, Christian converts are arrested, and public expressions of faith are closely monitored. The fear of the regime is clear. If people find hope and meaning outside of the state's version of Islam, it undermines their monopoly on power. Yet, even in the face of relentless persecution, the Christian movement in Iran continues to grow. Many converts rely on digital platforms and encrypted communications to connect with fellow believers. Others gather in secret, often in small, tight-knit groups, to worship and support one another. It is a quiet, yet determined revolution, one that speaks to the resilience and courage of those involved. For new Christian converts, the changes in their lives are nothing short of transformative. Across Iran, they quietly share their stories, describing a newfound sense of purpose, hope, and freedom. For them, the message of Jesus is not just a doctrine, it is a lifeline, a path to peace and liberation in a system that has long sought to silence them. Friends and loved ones navigating the dangerous reality of their newfound faith must tread with care and caution. In this perilous landscape, safe spaces for spiritual seekers become lifelines of hope. Hidden house churches and discreet Bible study groups offer refuge, though they exist under the constant shadow of danger. These small gatherings, often made up of no more than 10 to 15 believers, take place in modest apartments or inconspicuous homes. As the final attendee quietly slips through the door and it locks behind them, a palpable wave of relief washes over the group. For a moment, they embrace the safety and warmth of their community, however fleeting this fragile peace might be. Yet, this peace is often shattered with terrifying precision. Authorities raid these gatherings like military operations, storming into these sanctuaries of faith with overwhelming force. Leaders of these underground networks, who are seen as linchpins holding these communities together, are targeted with relentless severity. Taken without warning, they are thrust into detention facilities designed to break their spirit. In these bleak places, they endure solitary confinement, physical torture, and relentless psychological pressure. The government's intent is brutally clear: force these believers to renounce their faith and return to Islam. Inside these facilities, detainees are cut off from the outside world. Family support, legal representation, and fairness are luxuries they are denied. They face vague accusations like acting against national security, charges that strip away any semblance of justice. Even after completing their sentences, the nightmare is far from over. The government continues to monitor them closely, subjecting them to strict surveillance, scrutinizing every movement, every conversation. To the regime, these individuals remain a threat long after their release. Despite these risks, the movement continues to grow. More Iranians are being drawn to the teachings of Jesus, finding in them a message of hope and liberation that stands in stark contrast to the injustice, corruption, and oppression that defines their daily lives. The regime's fear-driven tactics aim to crush this spiritual awakening, yet the numbers tell a very different story. Christianity is quietly but steadily gaining ground in Iran. This shift aligns powerfully with Jesus' prophetic words in Matthew 10:22. "You will be hated by everyone because of me, but the one who stands firm to the end will be saved." These words resonate deeply with Iranian Christians. They endure unimaginable persecution, yet their faith remains unshaken. Their courage, their resilience, their unwavering belief shine brightly against the backdrop of constant threats, of violence, imprisonment, and even death. Interestingly, while the government's response is marked by harsh repression, a different reaction can often be seen among the friends and family members of these converts. Todd Nettleton, from The Voice of the Martyrs, explains that their perspective frequently shifts over time. Instead of rejection, many adopt a more understanding attitude. As he puts it, "If you've discovered something that works for you, whether it's Jesus, atheism, or anything else, that's great. I just know Islam doesn't work, so I'm glad you've found something else that does." This quiet acceptance from loved ones becomes a subtle yet profound testament to the transformative power of faith. The spiritual movement taking place in Iran is not an isolated phenomenon. Don Schenk, executive director of the Tide Ministry, emphasizes that Iran represents just one piece of a much larger trend. Across the Muslim world, similar movements toward Christ are emerging. What's happening in Iran is just the tip of the iceberg, Schenk notes. These waves of spiritual awakening are spreading across the Islamic world, fueled by a deep yearning for freedom, truth, and hope. One particularly compelling aspect of this movement is the role of dreams and visions. Reports from the Tide Ministry reveal that many Muslims are encountering Jesus through these profound experiences. These dreams often serve as the beginning of spiritual journeys, breaking through deeply ingrained cultural and religious barriers. While not every dream or vision leads directly to conversion, they frequently open the door for individuals to explore Christianity, and connect with Christian believers. Shank highlights that for many, these experiences mark the start of an incredible transformation. This movement reflects a deeper, irreversible shift, a shift powered not by political revolution, but by hearts longing for something greater. For those who risk everything to embrace their newfound faith, the message of Jesus offers something no regime, no authority, no threat can take away. Hope that endures, even in the darkest of times. These experiences often share similar reflections, revealing a profound realization. God's love is far greater than imagined. For many, including myself, this realization marks a transformative shift. I once believed that God's primary desire was to punish me for my flaws and failures. But through these encounters, I've come to understand a different truth. A God who seeks to redeem, heal, and embrace us with compassion. Dreams and visions hold a special place in Islamic culture, often regarded as divine communication. For Muslims who dream of Jesus, these experiences carry a striking significance. They portray a message of love, mercy, and guidance that stands in stark contrast to prior understandings of God as distant or judgmental. These encounters often shake deeply held beliefs, leaving individuals with profound questions and a yearning for answers. Many turn to the teachings of Jesus, marking the beginning of a spiritual awakening that is both deeply personal and transformative. The impact of these visions has drawn attention worldwide, particularly in regions like Iran, where such occurrences are frequently reported. Shank, an observer of this phenomenon, believes that what is happening in Iran is part of a broader movement reverberating across the Muslim world. In Afghanistan, for example, the story is equally compelling, yet marked by immense danger. Secretive Christians there must practice their faith under constant threat of Taliban persecution. The ever-present danger of exposure creates an atmosphere of profound distrust, forcing believers to navigate a fragile line between faith and survival. Shank underscores the incredible stakes of conversion in these contexts. For many, accepting Christ means risking their very lives. Yet despite these challenges, reports from Afghanistan suggest a growing number of people are embracing Christianity. This movement is driven by an overwhelming desire for a relationship with God that feels deeply personal, redemptive, and transformative. Yemen offers another extraordinary example. Studies suggest that Christianity is spreading there at nearly twice the global rate, an astonishing development given the country's deeply entrenched Islamic traditions and ongoing humanitarian crises. This growth defies all odds, shining a light of hope in one of the world's darkest and most troubled regions. Meanwhile, even in Saudi Arabia, a country historically known for its strict interpretation of Islam, there are glimmers of change. Nettleton, from The Voice of the Martyrs, notes that while challenges for Christians persist, the Saudi monarchy has begun acknowledging the possibility of peaceful coexistence with Christians. This represents a remarkable shift from attitudes held just a decade or two ago, when religious plurality was categorically rejected. The narrative of mass conversions to Christianity has also gained momentum online. A viral tweet by conservative commentator DZA claimed that millions of Muslims are converting to Christianity, sparking widespread discussions and debates. This conversation reignited interest in an older interview from the year 2000, in which Al-Qahtani reportedly stated that 667 Muslims were converting to Christianity every hour, amounting to 16,000 conversions daily, or nearly 6 million annually. While these figures lack verifiable sources and remain controversial, anecdotal evidence continues to support the notion of significant growth. Organizations like the Tide Ministry and voice of the martyrs, along with personal testimonies from converts, confirm the profound spiritual awakening taking place among Muslims. For these new believers in the Middle East, their spiritual journey is not just about personal transformation. They view it as part of a broader movement of God's Spirit, a wave of change that has the power to reshape entire nations. In regions often regarded as strongholds of Islam, the Holy Spirit is breaking barriers and moving hearts in ways that defy cultural, religious, and political expectations. The message of the Bible, with its universal call to redemption through Jesus, transcends borders and speaks to people across every corner of the globe. This movement is not confined to one country or community. It is a profound testament to the universal nature of God's love, a love that offers hope and renewal to people who have long endured oppression, injustice, and despair. For many in the Middle East, the realization of God's unconditional love is nothing short of revolutionary. It replaces the fear of divine punishment with the assurance of grace and forgiveness. It introduces them to a God who is approachable, compassionate, and deeply invested in their well-being. This spiritual shift is not merely an individual experience. It is creating ripples across the social and cultural fabric of the region. The Middle East, long viewed as resistant to change, is now experiencing a quiet, yet undeniable transformation. As individuals accept the gift of salvation through Jesus, the spiritual landscape of the region is beginning to shift. It is a transformation rooted in a message that brings freedom, truth, and light to places long overshadowed by darkness. Despite opposition, sometimes violent and relentless, the love and truth of God continue to penetrate these regions. Hearts are softening, communities are being touched, and hope is rising where despair once reigned. For many, this is the beginning of a new chapter, one that carries the promise of renewal and redemption. The story of this movement is not just one of personal faith. It is a testament to the boundless reach of God's love and the power of His Spirit to transform lives, communities, and nations.